focused jungler here. If Looper then steps up, as he's actually been extremely inconsistent this split, and Keith does have that improvement that Double was just talking about, that's where they end up finding their victories.
Well, it is, of course, all about consistency, and it starts here in Champ Select. LeBlanc and Lucian actually banned by TSM, so 2 bans already targeted at Froggen, with Zach and Caitlyn becoming the red side standards. Caitlyn especially has recently joined, pretty high presence on that side of the ban.
Absolutely, and you can see why whenever she actually makes it through to the game. You could be down 10,000 gold and you're still terrified of whether or not the Caitlyn's going to be taking over the game. Galio, another one that should most likely remain in the ban phase.
Yeah, it seems like things have sort of settled down as far as red side bans go. Kenning was TSM's last one, and Haunter going to flash the Poppy and then the Akali. We have seen a surprising amount of diversity, especially when sort of those top champions are taken, but TSM will stick to the plan and take Lee Sin.
Yeah, Svenskeren has some pretty spectacular performances on Lee Sin so far. They're going for it pretty much whenever it is available. Svenskeren actually has a losing record this split, game score-wise, on champions that aren't Lee Sin, and then a very strong winning record on Lee Sin.
Well, there's Renekton and Rek'Sai. That was the answer for Echo Fox. So 2 very strong picks in the top lane and jungle. Rek'Sai's really been picking up steam as far as power picks in the jungle, especially when Zac is banned away.
Yeah, and I really do feel like Rek'Sai is still predicated a lot on the early game. I like pairing it with a dominant laner like Renekton because there isn't really a lane that will compete with Renekton in, say, levels 1 through 9. And the same can be true of Rek'Sai in those duels. Rek'Sai also always good into Lee Sin because you just need to right-click him as he's coming in on his Resonating Strike to prevent the damage and get the quick knock-up. So this would be an early draft that can really play around that top side.
Well, yeah, another early Syndra pick for TSM, though. Bjergsen will pilot that champion once more. I mean, it's often banned in phase 2, so TSM almost feels like because of the other teams picking on their mid laner later in the draft, they feel like they have to pick a strong mid laner early. And this is one that Bjergsen's pretty comfy playing in, and the same should be true for Ashe here in Double's hands.
Yeah, so far this looks like an incredibly standard TSM team composition. I'd say Syndra is probably Bjergsen's signature champion. Lee Sin is the signature champion for Svenskeren. Both of those guys have been the focal point that TSM plays around historically. So for all the talk that TSM has about trying different strategies, well, they're trying to refine their core strategy, it looks like, in this draft.
Certainly does, and there's Echo actually the response for Echo Fox as the Rumble's banned out in their second phase, taking that top laner away from Haunter. Smart counter pick there for the mid laner, so should be a fun one to watch. Certainly a matchup that Bjergsen has a lot of experience with.
Yeah, and this draft is a little bit abnormal. We've been seeing a ton of drafts with jungle, AD carry, and support picked in the first phase, and then you kind of ban out the solo laners and go for power and counter picks after that. Not the case this time. Both solo lanes locked in for Echo Fox, and the early mid lane locked for TSM will make for a more interesting final phase of the draft.
There's a Varus ban as well for TSM, so actually picking on Keith with that role not selected yet for Echo Fox. There's Thresh ban though by Fox, taking that away from Bifrost. And it does feel like with the sheer number of supports being played currently, there's actually a lot of maneuvering you can do, either counter-picking that role or just taking one of a lot of different champions that these supports seem to be playing. Gate especially has very deep pockets.
Yeah, and banning Thresh I think is smart. I think Thresh is potentially the best support on this patch if you're good at it, like Biofrost is, so getting that ban out of there to open up Gate's larger champion pool. A very real chance we see a final pick support here, as Echo Fox could just lock down an AD carry here. Jhin is available and has been seeing a resurgence on this patch.
Certainly has, as Twitch was the second ban for TSM in phase 2, so 2 AD carries down. Gonna flush us some Mordekaiser. Also a possibility in that bot lane.
It really is. We even saw Mordekaiser top lane in the LCK over in Korea last night. Xayah, another champion that is still quite strong.
Yep, and there's Gragas actually selected pretty quickly there for TSM, so should be that tank in the top side up against Renekton. Tahm Kench also quickly rising in priority, goes over to Bifrost to pair with the Ashe. And then the last pick, Gate's going to flash to Sejuani, but we'll see what they're settling on. It is actually going to be last pick support here.
Yeah, he has actually played support
he has.
Sejuani. So this is not a troll hover.
No.
It's something he could actually do into a melee matchup like Tahm Kench, since both of them would be decent, but this is the more logical pick with the Rakan. You get the extra synergy with the Xayah-Rakan duo. Not around on Echo Fox's team composition, which is very kind of lane counter pick and split push dependent, whereas TSM is anything you would have expected during TSM. Tank top, a Lee Sin, Syndra, and then just a bottom lane that can potentially dominate things.
Like you said, it just feels like they're refining that core composition. This is something they've run time and time again. And while, yes, I have been impressed with their willingness to try and play other comps, it's game one of a best of three. You're on blue side, you might as well pick safe. And I think EchoFox have done a good job doing a lot of counter picking. Instead, it kind of looks like a very counter pick heavy draft. It's because EchoFox have drafted very well on red side to secure strong early picks in the top and jungle, and then kind of filter through the rest of the lanes.
Yeah, I don't think Renekton has any true counter picks. They locked that down right away. And then everything else, they got their pick of what they wanted to counter with, since even the Rek'Sai is a counter pick to Lee Sin. So we'll have to see there, as EchoFox hasn't necessarily had the best teamwork, because when you have these counter pick scenarios, you can be likely to pull ahead in the early game since you've got the choice of all your matchups. Then though, the question is, does your team composition make sense, and do you know how to play that? Because typically, drafting around counter picks doesn't mean you have a preset team composition in mind.
No, not at all. And I think we're going to have to see a lot here from EchoFox. They've got a lot of options though. Double TP to their top and mid laner. We can see split, which we could see team fight. Whatever it is, we're expecting it to be fun early, but we'll see if EchoFox can transition into that mid and late game. It's been a problem all year long, it feels like, not even just here in the summer. And TSM, they are a team back on the rise, looking to challenge for those top spots. EchoFox need to start climbing out of a little deficit that's been built early on here. So a pretty critical match for both teams here as we move out onto the Rift for game number 1.
Yeah, EchoFox just always seems to have that glimmer of hope where it seems for a year and a half we're saying, oh, it's finally starting to bear fruit and they're finally coming together and the summer split team has arrived. And then every time there's that moment, they fall the other direction. And it's incredibly important here after dropping the game to Phoenix One, who was a winless team on Friday. Coming up against TSM, EchoFox does not want to have that 0-2 week that puts them back in that losing mindset. So such an important matchup here against TSM.
Well, right now everyone's just fanned out across the river, kind of meeting up with their respective matchups. Haunter and Looper hiding in some brush. Looks like no vision down just yet. In fact, I'm not sure anyone's been spotted on either side. So it looks like Acadian's going to put down a late ward, just make sure he covers those Raptors. But TSM, I mean, you can guess Raptors start blind and you're right most of the time, I'd say. So shouldn't be too many surprises here, despite the fact that neither team really moved out to get any level 1 vision.
Yeah, and it's not even a surprise usually when you get a really fast level 3 gank from a jungler nowadays. And it seems that every jungler has a page with 1 experience quint on it, which means you can go Raptors into red buff, into Scuttle Crab, and then be level 3 for a gank. No champion is better than that at that than Rek'Sai, I feel. So be very observant of where Acadian goes with that first route, especially since he is unscouted at the Raptors.
Yep, interesting to see. Haunter actually the one moved down for that leash for Scarin. Gertie wanted to meet the wave there and challenge Froggen, as Acadian taking quite a lot of damage here early on, but should regenerate up relatively well and then hits level 2.
Yeah, he'll still be able to gain a fair bit of health thanks to building up that Fury, but I am a little surprised there. You can see 2 minutes and 5 seconds basically when he's starting his red buff, about 5 seconds behind Scarin, and Froggen is fully capable of helping him with that Raptors, but is so concerned with making sure he's keeping the shove in that mid lane as the Echo. I would have preferred actually that he just pulls for him there, and then the very threat of a Rek'Sai gank could be what keeps Bjergsen back, but they opt not to do that. And I think it hurts Acadian's early game pretty substantially on a very early game dependent champion.
One of those things, this team is very Froggen-centric, and even in little ways like that, you can see Froggen wants to meet his wave and try and challenge ASAP. Acadian, still level 2, going to move down towards the bottom side of the map, but is spotted by a ward, I believe. Bifrost even roaming up and getting additional vision as well. So Acadian can't really go too many places without getting spotted. These wolves are one of them.
Yeah, actually, I think the early game wards there by TSM are super clean. They warded the Scuttle Crab in the river on the side where he would have done the level 3 quick route, if that makes sense. And then after warding against that, they then warded the boost side in case he looped around. So they actually covered all of the potential bases for the known early game Rek'Sai ganks.
Well, early TP back for Froggen. Looks like he has, I think, Doran's ring and a control ward added as Sven pops up to the top side. Looper ward timing not good. And there's the slow moving Q lands in. Looper forced to flush away. Scarin, very successful early gank.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you want from an early game gank. You arrive, you immediately gank, you flow through the ward of the opponent, and you get the summoner spell while the wave is pushed away from him. That's everything you could have wanted aside from the kill.
Froggen going in for a trade there, but it does cost him quite a bit of his own health. There's some potions will be traded back out. Remember, Froggen did TP back early, so should have an leaning advantage as far as items go, but Bjergsen, again, this is a matchup he has played so many times.
Yeah, and you play it that many times because many people see Echo as the counter into Syndra. There's a lot of things Echo can do to close the distance onto Syndra. Very difficult to actually get your Scatter the Weak to knock the Echo back since he blinks towards you when he's getting the auto attack off with his phase dive. Not to mention it's really hard to harass him out of lane or kill him with ultimate thanks to the Chrono Break. Really want to see how that matchup ends up playing out since I think both these guys should be very familiar.
Again, just trading back. Froggen trying to keep the wave pushed as much as possible, but Syndra able to very easily drag that back and push it out as Froggen looks like he'll take yet another recall and run it back down. Early side stone actually for Arcadians, maybe one of the fun things to point out here. This was a very common thing back in the day on Rek'Sai, and some junglers are still adopting it. Arcadian definitely starting very supportive here.
Yeah, and I think this is also because he wants Chilling Smite, but his team probably won't let him unless he promises to put down wards, which is the constant struggle with Rek'Sai in competitive play, since in solo queue oftentimes you get away with challenging or Chilling Smite all the time, but in pro play, if you don't go Tracker's Knife, your team usually gets obliterated in vision unless you're snowballing the game. Based off of this, Bjergsen's going to be trying to push mid lane as the Syndra the whole time, so they need that little extra bit of vision. I don't personally like it as the Rek'Sai. Rushing a Sightstone, I feel like you should be totally optimizing around your early game, and that's not what you see when you get an early Sightstone.
Yeah, I'd be kind of curious to see if Arcadian does go tanky with that build, because it does feel like some of these Bruiser, Warrior, Black Cleaver builds are open to Rek'Sai since some of the changes. Sven, though, of course, will be doing that on Lee Sin, and he's moving along at a very nice clip. Not really slowed down his farming despite that early visit to the top lane, and still has about half of Lupa's flash cooldown left to try and make a play.
Yeah, there's not the lane advantages early on for Echo Fox, but the game is still incredibly close. You can just see by the gold that there's no huge gap opening up anywhere on the map right now, and even some good Sightstone wards by Arcadian to try and keep Svenskaren's Lee Sin at bay.
So bottom lane is pushing in for TSM. Doublelift actually does have a 10 CS lead, so things looking good there. Can be a little tough for Rakan, especially to get through lane, and Ashe is a very oppressive push style ADC, so looking good there in the 2v2 for TSM right now. Once it gets things pushed back in the top side, actually already TP'd back with triple Dorans. Despite the changes, tanks are still opting for all this early game efficiency. So it looks like the lane is pushing right now, so Lupa gonna feel pretty safe.
Yeah, just to go into a bit of detail about the nerf that actually happened to the Doran's Ring, it was the unique passive that made the difference on the Doran's Ring. It no longer restores 4 mana upon killing a unit every time. So it used to be 12 mana per minion when you had 3 Doran's Rings. Now it's just 4 since it's unique. But it keeps all the other stuff. It still gives you the mana regen, the health, the ability power, and you're still going to be able to super shove the wave with the triple Doran. So at least Svenskeren opposite still works in this case.
Yep, just very efficient there. It looks like a blue buff invade is being prepared by TSM. Sven and Bifrost going to collapse the tunnels and get that vision down. Scry's Bloom stolen as Arcadian does get out of the way. He's level 6, but it's a very different ultimate now, of course, on Rek'Sai. No more global pressure, but some execute potential. So Arcadian has been uncharacteristically quiet so far on this Rek'Sai.
And I actually feel like both junglers have been uncharacteristically quiet, and there's a reason for that. Watching the game so far, the junglers have kind of been like ships in the night, passing each other and warding each other's jungles. So they always know where the other person is. What ended up happening about 2 minutes ago is Arcadian warded the blue side of TSM's jungle. He then saw Svenskeren in that ward to get wards on the red side of the jungle. But then instead of going to the red side of the jungle after Arcadian had recalled the base, Svenskeren then placed the wards on the blue side of Arcadian's jungle where you see him now. And they're actually just running this cycle back over and over again, warding the jungler while he's on the other side. So they actually both always know where they are. That's how they're getting the wards down for the most part. This may be a window since there's a small gap in vision where they can dive.
3-man dive being prepped. Hornster ready with a flash and the ultimate, but Echo already going to line it up. That should be a kill. Hornster flashed out of the stun, but it's all too late. No, maybe not. Go to the Colossus. He's going to keep him alive for a little while longer, but there's first blood over to Lupa.
Yeah, there we go. Basically, Arcadian pulled ahead in the Sightstone game. He has the Sightstone, Svenskeren doesn't. It's not necessarily dueling, but he did out-vision him right there. There was a spot Arcadian walked through where TSM hadn't recently placed with wards since they had the wards on the other side of the map. Watching the actual gank, though, could have been a little bit cleaner. They get the knock-up on him. They don't get the stun from the parallel convergence. Hunter just barely escaped that, so that delays the game. But they were so healthy with an ulted Renekton diving in there. They have no problems making the repeat and getting the kill.
Yep, plenty to do there. Hunter blows everything and still goes down. So first blood over to Echo Fox. As Looper actually going to catch this wave with Froggen. Looks like he shoved an extra wave in the top side. Unsurprisingly, just taking that teensy bit of farm that happens to be there near him with Looper having to recall.
Yeah, ooh, 100 gold? Yes, please. I will take that. Meanwhile, his wave was pushed in over on the top side. And that's a situation where you're not actually hurting Froggen since he didn't shove any extra minions and the wave won't necessarily bounce back towards Bjergsen's turret. You never want to be the guy who takes just enough minions so that the wave pushes to the other side of the lane for your solo laner. That's how reports happen for players in solo queue.
Yeah, and looks like your read on Arcadian Smite was correct. He does have a challenging Smite.
Ooh, not even killing.
But even more dueling power. That longsword could indicate Warrior as well. It's a good stun from Dirk. Going to chunk out Froggen. Forcing the ultimate as they do trade in, but Froggen hitting back doesn't quite get the second proc on the passive.
Yeah, that's honestly just how the matchup works out between Cinder and Echo. He didn't use the ult to get back to the wave. That means every time Bjergsen presses R, Froggen presses R in return and nullifies the ults. They just trade, so then they both become wave clear with their other 3 abilities.
Yep, Froggen takes the blue buff though and goes back, so wave clear duties will be even easier to fulfill. And looks like a lane swap actually from TSM, getting Haunter some help here in the top side. Going to try and break open this turret sooner rather than later. Froggen with no ulti looks like a gank target, but Sven just can't find an angle. Froggen playing respectfully there.
Yeah, we're going to have a turret race happening right now, though. Looks like Echo Fox have a slight lead on this one. Svenskeren taking the Rift Herald, trying to get a jump on the objective trade.
Oh, we're going to try something here, but the first turret is going to go to Echo Fox, so they'll pick up a bit of bonus gold, and they're not done pushing. They'll actually go through as Haunter recalls. Doublelift on Bifrost going to try and do the same, but it's going to be 2 versus 1. And they shouldn't be able to get any extra damage here. Echo Fox just forcing TSM to come back down to the bottom lane. Another nice time from Bjergsen, but Froggen again just feeling pretty safe. Bjergsen, no ultimate to try and all in there.
Yeah, TSM could have won that turret trade if Svenskeren would have opted to go up there, but instead he's opting for the Rift Herald. So now you have to factor in, okay, they gave up the extra 300 gold from turret first kill, and then they're also now trading Rift Herald for Ocean Drake. Since you know as soon as you see the Rift Herald fall, that's where the enemy jungler is. I don't think this is worth for TSM, so well played by Echo.
Yeah, Haunter just going to get some vision down, does see it.
And the barrel. Stop it.
Maybe going to go for some sort of steal. Bifrost in the area as well, but smite down for Arcadian. He's going to give the Drake over to Echo Fox. So a flurry of trades across the map, and Echo Fox up 1,000 gold at the end of it.
Yeah, that generally makes sense. They were the ones who got the first turret, and Svenskeren, I think, didn't quite keep his priorities. The question is now, though, what do they do with the Rift Herald? Because now it needs to essentially make up for the first turret gold, as well as the Ocean Drake.
And of course, you have to do it without getting a trade that doesn't go in your favor. You don't really want to have to trade extra turrets when you're the team with the Herald. So let's see how TSM set it up. Unfortunately, unlike maybe the information we thought when we first saw the Rift Herald, you can't just put it down and hope it takes the turret follow. It's not that good. You do have to apply some setup, and the window is pretty small before the trinket runs out. So TSM looks like they're maneuvering towards perhaps the mid lane, trying to get some damage done there, but will be tough against Froggen, especially if anyone else comes to help out with the wave clear.
Yeah, not an easy mid lane to push in. You would expect it to be in the side lanes. Hello.
Catch on the Haunter by Froggen. Haunter going to get over the wall. Froggen just making sure that he harasses Haunter for taking that control ward out of the pit. TSM very busy on the top half of the map. They actually have 3 people with Bjergsen cheating towards the top side as well. So pressure from Froggen in the mid lane is going to give him priority if something is going to eventuate. Doublelift getting this top lane push. Might even be time to get the Rift Herald going there.
Rick Fox giving the shout out to Doublelift for the pregame interview as well. Also feels good when he compliments Rick Fox's player Keith, who's a much embattled carry, but I do also think Keith has been playing much better this year, and it's interesting as well, just looking at the body language of the Echo Fox team, and Keith in particular, seems to actually take losses much harder than he did last year. I think because he has a larger stake in the team's success. Keith has actually spoken about being much more vocal on the team and actually contributing to the shot calling more than just being that carry in the bottom side. So more weight on his shoulders this split as well.
I think in general, the overall motivation for Echo Foxes look good, and they're kind of feeling, as we can see in their play, that they are growing and maturing as a team. So always good to see that. So right now we just have a bit more farming. Teams again still trying to set up for that next little play. But EchoFox doing a nice job keeping TSM busy, it feels like, in a lot of these side lanes. And it's not going to be that many minutes left for Svenskaren's Rift Herald. It's going to have to pop it soon. And generally when you pop the Rift Herald in a unset up position, it tends to do just about nothing.
Yeah, and with the counter-picked lanes, so to speak, for EchoFox, I feel like TSM is having a difficulty finding an upper hand in any of these waves with which they'd want to put the Rift Herald down on. This game is kind of progressing mostly the way we expected to so far, and it is going to be more about the team play later on as Froggen goes on Bjergsen.
Nice little dive. Bjergsen with a stun, though. It's his Gate going to try and save the day. Looks for the play. Does not land the quickness W out onto Bjergsen. He burns both his summoners to get out. Yeah,
and Gate and Froggen burned no summoners on that one, so definitely a winnable trade. Speaking about how EchoFox has kind of neutralized TSM, though, so much of this does come down to this Sightstone on the Rex side. The early ward coverage was really good. I don't necessarily think it's, in my opinion, what you want out of a Rex side. You don't want to neutralize the early game, you want to dominate the early game, but this has kept TSM from being able to make plays. Now they're trying to push down this mid lane.
Yeah, here's the full-man stack. Oh, arrow lands in front, and he's going to evaporate Svenskaren. Lands the execute. Now turret still under siege. Circadian trying to wrap back around, but they've got no cooldowns left to play with. Turret's going to fall Haunted, try something to play, and misses onto the Rex side, but still an impromptu siege gives TSM a turret and a kill.
Oh, chain CC right onto Froggen. You land the Syndra stun, you hit him with the Ash Arrow. You never get the chance to counter it with the Chrono Break onto Echo. And that's exactly how you want to push with the Rift Herald. You place it down, the other team groups up to defend it, but the stun right there from Bjergsen, never letting him become unstunned. He's not Froggen there, he's just stunned, and then he dies.
Well, TSM making the best of a pretty short timing window. There was 15 seconds left before that Rift Herald was going to expire, so came together at the right moment. TSM with a turret advantage and the gold lead after picking up that extra kill onto Froggen. We'll see if EchoFox can right the ship and try and get a turret of their own, or if TSM can actually now, with the map a little more open, press down, try and take this last outer turret here in the bottom lane, and then really start playing that mid game.
Yeah, and now it's about whether or not Looper can exert some of his will in this game. Black Cleaver Renekton at level 11 is really, really strong. I mean, Doublelift is actually being quite greedy at this lane right here. Yes, he has both summoner spells up, but he doesn't have anyone behind him, so he's betting that Looper doesn't know he's alone, because if he is alone, Looper is slicing dice through those minions and all ends.
Doublelift again, just keeping them shoved through. TSM playing to that bottom side with the Drake up in 50 seconds. Not a bad side of the map to be setting up on. Also with these TPs. In fact, all 3 teleports are up at this juncture. And looks like Bjergsen's actually going to swap his way back down to the less safe lane and give the easier farm to Doublelift with Bifrost kind of helping out as well.
Yeah, moving the Syndra over to the side lanes when he's down summoners isn't necessarily the safest play, but currently everyone on EchoFox is in a recall pattern and TSM has control over the Drake area, so it's pretty much just about shoving up as many waves as possible. And now we're in that teamwork phase, so the counter picks don't have the same level of effectiveness, and it's more about how does your team composition work. TSM very experienced playing around these specific champions, so I think that does give them an edge moving into this stage in the game, but we got to see if Froggen or Looper can flank around and make some big plays.
Yep, certainly a lot of play for TSM here with an open map, plus Ashe ult up. Well, Froggen actually is challenging that Syndra. Looks like they might be collapsing for a fight. Arrow is going to miss, I believe. Was looking for Keith, but didn't find it. Now Keith's going to get shrunk down by Haunter. Does flash out of the way, but a great ultimate's going to secure the kill. Keith blew everything so early.
Yeah, he just was totally outnumbered on that side. EchoFox was funneling down with 3 people in the jungle and 2 people in the mid lane, and TSM has made a call to one side.
Kick. There's another great one from Svenskaren. Straight into the arms of Haunter for the extra CC.
Looks like it's falling apart for EchoFox right now. TSM using those playmaking abilities right there. Gragas, Lee Sin, Syndra, Ashe. Even if they're not landing all their skill shots, EchoFox is not together, and TSM's getting the kills.
And again, reaping all those benefits from getting this vision down on the right-hand side. TSM with a very good play around the map. Going to take the T2 in mid lane, run back down towards the Ocean Drake. Bifrost even going to get there earlier. Looks like, yeah, bottom lane actually going to attempt to play onto Looper. That's Syndra going to get the stun in. Bifrost now going to start tagging him up. Looper burns the ultimate, slash and dice through the wave as a flash lick is going to miss Looper, who's forced to flash as well.
They went for a lot more. I thought Bifrost was just trying to speed up the run to the Mountain Drake, not actually go for Looper, getting the ult and the flash out of him for just the flash and the ult of a Tom Kench. is absolutely worth it, since that's actually what the Renekton wants to do, is he needs those spells to split push. Watching this one more time, it's not so much about the play, it's about where Echo Fox is on the map versus TSM. Rek'Sai, Echo, Renekton, all in the river while TSM is running down on Gate and Keith in the mid lane. They were just trying to get the waves there. And then, Gate, what are you doing, man? No vision of the mid lane. Midline priority is lost, as has been a pattern for Echo Fox, getting punished once again.
Well, Keith is trying to get a trade back here in the top half of the map. Big waves stacked up as Gate joins in, but the rest of TSM are looking to answer. Bjergsen going to insta-clear this wave as Syndra, and that play stops pretty quickly for Echo Fox.
Yeah, Drake already being down, Infernal not for a while, Baron coming up in 20 minutes. You can see Echo Fox trying to get some control of the Baron area, but they don't necessarily have the advantages to maintain that control. TSM already moving in to that spot with upgraded sweepers on Biofrost and Svenskeren, as well as a number of control wards to get rid of that vision and take control of this area.
Yep, 2,000 gold up for TSM as we approach the 20-minute mark in this game. Baron will be up soon. And again, TSM just kind of play it standard. Haunts up back to the bottom side. Rest of TSM playing to that Baron side of the map with the Drake down. And it's just systematic and very well disciplined right now for TSM as Froggen might have caught Sven here. Sun's going to land. Krog's going to go over to Froggen.
Hey!
Gets the stun and takes the farm. All calculated.
We did it. Get some more. Oh, you're going to get those two.
All right, Svenskeren decides to take that last little one as he'll finish off the camp. Bjergsen going to go ahead and get the top side pushing out. Froggen needs help to not get picked off again.
There's one thing Froggen's perfected, it's CSing.
Especially jungle creep. It's this turret also under fire. Fox is not in the right position to try and capitalize. Long flank TP in though. Oh, Gate look for the play. Knocks it off, but a good devour there from Biofrost. He's going to keep double if safe. The turret still falls, though.
TSM didn't see Renekton TP in, but they see him now. Let's see if Haunter now channels his teleport right away.
There's Haunter. Bjergsen, though, off to the side flank as Looper runs through the team. He gets exhausted. Double is still outputting damage as Gate. Who's doing the play? Point blank arrow stuns up Gate. Haunter with a double belly bump to stun up to Arcadian. Still trying to fight, but he goes down on the other side. Double kill with Svenskeren. TSM wipe the floor with Echo Fox.
And you could see it was just not a clean collapse by Echo Fox. They took so much damage while Looper was running up, and then they don't even get that big of a jump. It's actually Haunter, who essentially could be called late on the TB since CSM didn't see the first one, has a way bigger impact on that team fight. And they turn straight for Baron. Mountain Drake makes it easier. They're taking full control of this game.
Baron is gone under 21.5 minutes. So watch this play again. Echo Fox starting to feel a little more desperate with this play.
Yeah, I mean, you can see how low they are by the time Gate goes for the re-engage. Triple stun by Haunter on the body slam flash. Arcadian can't quite solo out Bjergsen on the backside, even with his challenging smite, but also because of his Sightstone. Imagine he has a more damaging build, Bjergsen actually dies. Even then, they'll still end up losing that fight.
Well, TSM now with the Baron looking to try and take down that last little outer turret, sticking out in the bottom lane. And Echo Fox will likely lose significantly more structures as the rest of this play develops. Pretty much the full duration of the buff, really, to get these sieges going with. And we are going to start in this bottom side. No one here, I think, smartly from Echo Fox to challenge at least this turret here in the bottom lane. Yeah,
they have just fallen way behind. And this is kind of what our concern was for Echo Fox in the draft. They have been a team that has been able to accrue some large early game advantages, but have struggled in the team play aspect. And then in the draft phase, they don't actually draft for a team comp. They draft for almost exclusively counter picks, but they are not pulling off plays as a team, whereas it felt like TSM was pretty much saying, we know how to play. Gragas, Syndra, Lee Sin, even Ashe from Doublelift has been really good with his arrows lately, and the early game was even because TSM relied on their laning ability, and since then, they have been the one making plays because they're very experienced with this style.
Well, his last one Gauntlet is going to force Frog into a flash, burns the ultimate to get him out of there, but will take the summoner spell from the Echo Fox mid laner. And now this inhibitor turret getting sieged up in mid. Probably going to have to run very far back. Home guarding in from base, but the turret already dead. TSM with a little too much strength here.
Yeah, Froggen potentially hoping for a TP, but even if they teleported in here, they're down so much. Baron's still running on TSM, so they're very strong right now.
And I have to say, after watching this game from TSM in their series versus FlyQuest yesterday, the different speeds this team is willing to play at is maybe more impressive than the amount of comps they've tried to play this summer. When FlyQuest is running straight at them, playing super fast tempo league, they're happy to play at that same pace. And now in a more measured game versus Echo Fox, confident in their ability to transition as a team into the mid game, and have done so here as well.
Yeah, very slow start to the split for TSM, but this week at least early on in the first 3 games now, they're looking much improved. The series they had against FlyQuest, probably the cleanest they have looked as a team. And then even in this game, even if they had a more subdued early game, it really feels like they're turning it on at the right moment. So things are looking up a little bit for TSM.
Certainly looking better, but still this game to go. Getting further out of reach for Echo Fox, but certainly not out. Froggen still trying to make the plays, but Haunter is just a menace right now. Froggen, yeah, doesn't even want to take the rest of that 1v1.
Yeah, the classic armor item plus Visage power spike for any tank top laner. Still going to be one of their strongest points in the game, because in none of the common mid lane or bot lane builds do you have resistance shredders like a Void Staff or a Last Whisper at this point. So it just means that you're not shredding through any of those tank stats, and Haunter can pretty much go where he pleases for the next 10 or 20 minutes.
Yep, just hanging out in top lane right now. TP almost back up as TSM will start this Infernal Drake. Didn't get too much else after that one in hit, but still enough damage done for TSM with that Baron buff, and to kind of maneuver them into this late game, it almost feels like the game is saying, hey, you know what, you guys are doing well. Looks like you might want to end the game in the next 10 minutes. Here's an Infernal Drake to make the fights a little bit easier. Things just breaking TSM's way time and time again.
Yep, Baron buff is down, so it will be tricky. Or Baron buff is down in about 10 seconds, as it looked like it was still up.
Spence over them, so that tricky jungler one. Gate getting chunked, yep, has to get out of the way. Double Lift though, just standing and killing that turret as Echo Fox just don't feel like they can challenge. Double Lift wasn't even really kiting, but Echo Fox no better than to try and challenge, and this inhibitor might just go away with no contest. Echo Fox just gonna let it fall.
Yeah, I mean, Gate would also just have to make some miracle initiation happen for this one, and then they don't even have a super great combo to throw in there like an Orianna to try and turn these fights. So it looks like Echo Fox is just kind of unsure of how to proceed right now, and TSM's taking full advantage.
And it is tough. They're 9,000 gold behind, so it's not like they're playing an even game where they have to find the perfect angle. Even if they find the great initiation, maybe too far behind to really claw back into the game, and TSM just systematically destroying this last inhibitor turret. Double Lift already on it. Does take turret aggro though.
Triple stun. Yeah. Oh, not even a Baron buff, but they're trying to go for something.
Yeah, Haunter trying to play. Looks like he does get the knockup. He's tanking the turret at this point. His Gate is going to land the knockup. Looper with the chain stun. Haunter walking out of there. There's the ultimate committed. Froggen gets out with his own Chrono Breaker. There's Cadian stunned in the top side. Big Feather Storm in. Might be enough to save the game. The knockup is there. Cadian does get the kill onto Haunter, but spent low in the front line as the stuns just keep coming. TSM too far ahead, too tanky in the front line. Although Echo Fox keep living.
Yeah, they definitely lost this fight. They could get aced if Looper cleans him up here.
But with the wraparound, Bjergsen is the target, does scatter the weak away, but he's going down. Carries now dead for TSM, and TSM just have to recover. Froggen is going to TP back in to try and clean up the
home guards.
Kills. Just Bio and Sven left, but I'll keep wandering out of the way. Looper, no minions to really go to. TSM going to start to split up as Froggen should be able to chase this down. Blastcone could save him. Bifrost trying to book it. Sven's already out. There's Bifrost with the ultimate of Froggen. Can't interrupt it.
Cheeky escape by the last few members of TSM, but actually a good turnaround fight there by Echo Fox. We talked about ways that they could combo with Rakan's initiation, and they pulled it off there. Most of the credit for this fight, I think, goes to Keith and Gate for making initiation. Yes, Keith gets bounced around a fair bit by Haunter to start, but does not suffer a death. Then watching this dive, they're getting a lot of this large stunts off. Nope. Cadian gets in for the triple knockup, trying to find the Feather Storm. Yeah, pretty much just Keith right there, as well as they're getting this quickness coming through from Gate. That's the majority of the damage. It takes down Double Lift and Haunter's Gragas, and then Bjergsen out of mana since they've had this extended siege, still having the double TP as well. So this is where Echo Fox tries to come in for the big play. Looper ults just for the extra damage, does end up all-inning for Bjergsen. Potentially could have gotten someone else and left Bjergsen for the rest of his team, so they missed out on maybe some potential kills.
Well, Echo Fox at least happy to get some gold back in their pockets, cutting down TSM's lead pretty substantially. Also got a top outer turret during that replay, so extra gold also going over. Still 8 turrets to 2, so not great as far as total deficits go, but making up in the right places here for Echo Fox. If they can find that angle again, that will push them even closer to even.
Now coming straight back to the scene of the crime, though. Trying to fight one more time. Double TPs are down, and TSM is trying to get this turret. But Echo Fox will want to initiate. There's the quickness.
Gate again needs to devour. Does get Double Lift out of the way. But Looper looking for another big flank. Still kiting it out. Looper into the backline. Does get knocked up. He needs to get blown up, but Looper still living through the onslaught. Even lives through Syndra. This kid gets another Feather Storm. The pull Sven scaring back, but Double Lift takes down the Rek'Sai, and Echo Fox now on the run. Froggen might make a big play with the ultimate, but they have to keep running forward. Gate battle dances out to Keith, then to Froggen to make sure he gets out of the way. 5v4 feels rough. Echo Fox only losing their front line, but that was enough.
Yeah, where was that arrow going from Doublelift? You could see he had an idea for it, but he shoots it low. You can see the Renekton and Rek'Sai is just not the power of frontline that they need to shred through this, as TSM has multiple disengage options. They're actually shooting straight for Baron, knowing Acadian is dead. Doesn't matter if it's on a ward for them right now.
Yep. The rest of TSM will be there shortly, and Echo Fox are trying to get there in time. Transcaren's going to see that ward. Control ward down in the pit to cut off all the vision, and now Hornstar just going to play goalie.
Got to be a little bit careful here, actually. Bjergsen doing a good job zoning them. They get Froggen's ultimate. It's over.
All right, well, Froggen out. Baron goes over, and Acadian respawns just in time to see it go down. Watch this exchange again.
Yeah, so you can see Gate goes in, but Biofrost, good spacing right there so they don't get caught in the quickness, allows him to devour. Looper actually manages to get kicked in, which is, I think, where he wanted to kick. Svenskeren knew he wanted to try and disengage with that, but even so, they still get blown away by Bjergsen and Doublelift's damage from the backside.
Again, just TSM a little too far ahead at this stage. TSM going to look to actually just shove down the rest of the base with 3 inhibitors down, Supers pushing in every single wave, and the Baron up for pretty much 3 minutes. This is going to be a tough siege for Echo Fox to get through, and I think they're going to have to fight their way out.
Yeah, they're pushing straight up the mid lane with 3 waves of supers. It's going to be tough.
All right, one inhib back as Doublelift scooped up by Biofrost once more. TSM, they're going to make sure they take down that last inhib, get all the supers spawning again. Ooh, a stun actually into Gators. Tries to go for the initiation on the Bjergsen. Charm lands in onto Sven. Sven going to try and get zoned as Lupin looks for the backline, but Doublelift just outputting damage again. Rek'Sai dives into the front, but gets exhausted. Froggen still trying to take down Bjergsen, but he's going to have to ulti out with Syndra unleashing the power. Now the Nexus turret's going down. 2 dead already for Echo Fox on the right-hand side of the play, and that's going to make it through. The Nexus now exposed. TSM just too far ahead. They're going to take game 1 over Echo Fox.
Another great Lee Sin performance by Svenskeren as well. 5 games in a row on Lee Sin and 5 wins, moving his season score on that champion to 9-1. Kept them in the early game, helped make the plays in the mid and late game. It's kind of been the story of Echo Fox this season as well, doing decent to good and early, and then just not being able to transition that in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, just really tough there. I mean, it just felt like TSM kind of found their foothold in the game, made that really nice Rift Herald play in the mid game with barely any time left to summon the monster, and then from there just kind of broke open. So we actually are going to break the game down here. We can start by looking at their team comp. We set up for TSM, very standard stuff. Don't really need to review that. For Echo Fox, I like some elements of this draft, but like you said, maybe focus too much on the lanes and not enough in building a cohesive strategy.
Yeah, and it's tricky, right? When TSM comes at you with their power picks, you want to be able to have answers to that, and they do individually know how to play all of these champion matchups. I thought Froggen did fine into the Syndra. You're actually not supposed to win that early as the Echo. You're just supposed to have threat later and prevent the Syndra from taking over the game. Froggen did that. I'd say Looper's Renekton had the lower impact when he's early picked with the Rek'Sai, and I think that's where it really kind of ends up falling apart. The Rek'Sai, Renekton need to be able to take over this game early if Echo Fox is going to find a victory, and they were not able to do that.
Certainly not, and as a result, we kind of get replays that look like this. 18 minutes in, TSM just doing everything they know how to do.
Yeah, and this is the moment of the game where Echo Fox falls apart and TSM uses their playmaking. Hauntzer roams down as the Drake is being set up for. They just use a bunch of stuff on Keith, wait for a CC to land, and that gets the kill, and immediately they've had a 4v5. But Echo Fox doesn't actually want to give away anything. They're running the risk of losing the mid turret as well as the Drake, and Gate gets caught in between the two, but doesn't have the rest of his team with them. I mean, look at where the Echo and the Renekton are on the minimap. They're nowhere to be found, so they end up losing all of it. 2 deaths, the mid-tier turret, as well as the Mountain Drake after this. So this was just TSM knowing when to make a play. This is pretty much the first action we saw from them in most of the game was around 20 minutes.
And again, you can see Goldgraph just shooting up over time once kind of that mid-game was over. Sure, a dip here and there where TSM did make a few mistakes, and Echo Fox capitalized well by making some nice plays, but there's one of those things where you're far enough ahead that you can afford to make a mistake or two. TSM only made a couple, and that was not enough to keep Echo Fox in the game.
Yeah, and you can see the overall damage dealt to champions in this game is actually not very high. Froggen sitting at about 500 damage per minute. Bjergsen closer to 650, but everyone else pretty low, and it's because TSM did make their fights count. They got a kill or two and then would very quickly focus on the objectives, which is the way they do want to play.
Yeah, I mean, even in that replay we just saw, all of that was set up by great vision, knowing what side of the map to set up on, and then very simply using their pick tools to execute, get those picks, and then able to transition easily. So that is something that TSM are very good at doing on a multitude of champions. I guess my obvious question is, do you just take these comfort picks away? Because sure, they're going to do them with almost any comp, but maybe make it a little more difficult.
Yeah, exactly. And it is tricky right now because you look at the things they banned away and it could have potentially been worse. They got rid of Caitlyn, they got rid of Zach, right? I forget exactly what their last ban was, but they were very strong power picks.
Definitely
Galio,
don't
which
give
is
them
another
either.
one which you don't want to give them. I mean, maybe you do because they're not as practiced with that, but from an overall aspect, I don't think there's necessarily a flaw in their ban strategy. They just need to have a more cohesive team comp for Echo Fox.
Well, we're going to step away for a quick break, but when we come back, it's Game 2 between TSM and Echo Fox. Stay with us. You're watching a North American LCS.